11 was my number for this season, so I'm feeling confident put laying that down. I really thought it was because when I look at I think the losses are going to be the Packers. I look at the Titans. I look at one of the Cowboys' losses. I look at the Cardinals as a loss, and I think that last Giants game when they had nothing to play for, I think that's a loss too. Otherwise, when you look at all the other stuff that they have now, I think everything else is in play. So I look at that, and I think I comfortably take the 11 wins. And I'm shocked. I saw that line, and I remember first open was 9.5, and I think a lot of people in Vegas and maybe got heavily influenced in Philadelphia bumped it up to that 10.5. So I definitely take the Eagles.
Appreciate you streaming on in here on Birds 365. Thanks for joining me with Chris Franklin from NJ.com, taking a couple of minutes out of his vacay to hop aboard with us.
Yes.
And we truly appreciate that, Franklin. You're too dedicated. You're over the friggin' top. But we readily take advantage of you. So thank you for allowing us to do so. All right.
No problem.
Here's where we're going. Question number one.
Okay.
I need you to give me a percentage. Going to put it on the truthometer, okay?
Okay.
From 0 to 100. 0% truth being like, oh, I don't know. You watch the waitress with the beautiful derriere walk by you, and your significant other catches you, and you try and go down the road of, oh, no, I was just checking out the hamburger on the tray. Yeah, right, okay? That's a 0. And 100% is, oh, yeah, I believe that. No question in my mind. He could walk into the confessional right now and say, Father, I'm telling the truth. And Father would say, yes, bless you, son, I believe you. So it's somewhere between 0 and 100%. Where do you put the Eagles' statement of, if they hadn't taken Cam Jurgens in the second round, they would have taken Nakobe Dean?
As much as I like hamburgers and as much as I probably need to say 6 Hail Marys and everything, I'd probably put it around 30%. Because I really think that they were looking for offensive line in that section. Although I think personally I would have taken Dean in that spot, but something tells me I think they were looking very, very. I heard they were looking before they took Jurgens. They were looking to address one of those needs, either center or guard, around the interior offensive lineman around that spot. So I think it was a nice luxury when they look on the board and see in the third round. Then, oh yeah, look, Kobe Dean. Oh yeah, we always wanted him. It was a nice thing to say it then, but I think overall,
here's why. And I'm stepping on everybody today, and I apologize for it, but you can tell I really like Nakobe Dean. But the Eagles are just so full of it; it's ridiculous. If they actually wanted to take him where they took Cam Jurgens, and they're good with the pick, whatever we would think about taking it, and 5 picks go by, and they don't do anything. And 10 picks go by, and they don't do anything. And 20 picks go by, and they don't do anything. And 25 picks go by, and they don't do a thing. Are you telling me if you were actually going to take the kid in the second round and he's sitting there, you're going to let someone else pick him off the board in the third round? No way. You're going to move up 5 slots, 3 slots, 2 slots, whatever you got to do. Give up that stinking 7th round pick to get up there and assure yourself of Nakobe Dean. I think that is 100% revisionist history.
Well, here's
going to take him in the second.
Here's where I like Chris's number. I'd like that number 30. I might even go as high as 35, 40. But I find it hard to believe. But from Jody's perspective, well, they had to give up 4 picks to go get, Jordan Davis. So they didn't have a lot to go up once they made the Davis trade. And the last thing, they only had 5 picks to begin with. If you're moving up again, then you even have less than that. So I think that affected things. And then I kind of look at 51. So if the Eagles took Cam Jurgens at 51, who was there at positions of need? Everybody thought cornerback at the time because that was, pre-James Bradbury. Cam Taylor-Britt was the next corner who went 60. I'm trying to look at that. And then it was Martin Emerson at 68. So I don't know. There weren't a lot of people for the Eagles to select. If somebody took Juergens at 50, I think there's an outside chance they would have took Dean at 51. But I like 30%, Chris.
And especially when you look at the way the team values linebackers, at the most part, they already had Kaiser White. They already had TJ Edwards. They say they were still very much invested in Davion Taylor. So a linebacker looked pretty set. I think it's one of those situations where he fell on their lap. And they're just like, wait, he's still on board? We're probably going to catch some heat if we don't pick him. Because they don't, when you look long term, TJ Edwards' contract's in next year. You sign White's 1 year deal. It's so much influx. You don't know what you, and speaking of Taylor, you still don't know what you truly have in him. So I think it was a pick that fills two holes. And I still look at that second round, and you look back at the history of this team and trying to pick linebackers, and they gave up Devin White. They gave up the first one. They got AJ Brown with it, which is a good one, but you could have used a pick to move up or to get back in the first round to get guys like that. But it just looked overall like a little bit of revisionist history.
All right, I'm going to give you another 0 to 100 question. Have some fun with this one. We are an all-star team quote last week from our buddy Miles Sanders. 0 being zero effect. Nothing burger has zero effect on the Eagles upcoming season to 100%. Oh, shoot, he just Vince Young'd us with the Dream Team comment. Give us we know it's going to fall somewhere in the middle. Which is it closer to, complete and utter nothing burger to, oh, shoot, there goes my dream. It's a nightmare. He screwed us by going down that road.
I think it's a 0. Personally, I think he was looking, and I think he got enough veteran talent around there and the coaching staff where to keep that team in check, because it's sort of like when I look at this team, I hear something like that. It's sort of like what Herb Brooks said, like Kurt Russell says, Herb Brooks is a miracle. Like, this team is not talented enough to win on talent alone. So I think that the veterans know what's going on with that. They know the whole entire situation. They've been through something like this, so they won't do this. Now, if Sanders comes out and plays like Ronnie Brown a couple this season, then I think we look back at that moment and go, oh, well, there it is. But I think overall, when you look at everything else, when you say stuff like that, it's nothing. It really truly is nothing. He may get set. He may get brought in and go, hey, listen, calm down a little bit. But I think he's hearing that from everybody else now. But I think it's nothing when it comes to
that. I'm with you. I'm with you at 0%. And I'm going to go this far, Chris. I think Vince Young was 0%. And I saw your buddy Les Bowen at NJ.com kind of wrote about that. Les was there for the Vince Young stuff. You and I weren't covering the team at that point. So he actually went through that stuff. Other than other people taking Vince Young's comments, it had nothing to do with that team underachieving. Nor will, if this particular team underachieves, a bunch of us will write stories about, hey, remember when Miles said it was an all-star team?
As well you should.
Yeah. But it will have no effect on them not being an all-star team. And I look at it from this perspective with Miles. I'd rather have a guy say that than a guy that said, oh, golly, geez, shucks, I don't know how good we are. I don't want that guy. I don't know why people have such a problem. What do you want Miles to say? No, we stink. We stink. We're terrible. I get it. You could be, more tempered and say we got a chance to be very good. You can do it more politically, but I don't have a problem with it.
All right. So then let me ask this of both of you, because it's quite kind of like what Miles did. Yesterday, Micah Parson of the Cowboys said that he and Trayvon Diggs combined as a defensive duo can be better than Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Do you take that same stance up? Well, that's what you expect them to say. It's a confidence thing. It's a good thing. Good on them.
I would love it. I would love it if I were a Cowboys fan. I would love it.
You'd want your guys to think they're the best. If they're thinking like, hey, you know what? Oh, we're like mid-tier guys. We're in the middling. We're nowhere near that. Then you start to question about, you go to your scouts and go, why'd you get me a guy who doesn't have confidence in his makeup? You start to question his makeup a little bit. I don't get. And on a separate note, I actually like what Sanders said, because it was actually a player actually giving some real insights. It wasn't the can lines. It wasn't looking at that one too. He was actually open with the CBS guy, and if that's true. And I put the caveat if Miles said that he was taken out of context. If that's what it was taken out of context, and that's a whole other story. If he was actually being real, that's I welcome them being open with that. And I think a lot of guys now are going to see some of that stuff and go like, well, we can't be open and can't be real thinking what we really believe in this locker room now. Maybe we can just go with we're going to take it one day at a time. We're going to just do everything else. I'm like, I actually thought it was kind of refreshing to see that from a player, especially when it comes to an Eagles player. So I thought,
yeah. And I think it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy for a player. I look at Slay Slay thinks he's the best corner in football. And he's close to it. Now you got to have the physical gifts. Obviously you got to have that as a foundation, but it doesn't hurt to think you're the best corner in football. If you have the confidence to go, you know what? There's nobody's going to beat me. I love it. Devontae Smith's got that sort of understated confidence as well as a young player. Every time I see it, I think it's a really, really good thing. And that includes, Eagles fans aren't going to like it, but that includes Dallas. And Micah Parsons, why not, man? That guy he's not going to be Aaron Donald, but he really, you talk about a rookie player. I can't remember a rookie player being that dominant since maybe Javon Curse back with Tennessee. That was the last rookie I saw dominate. Maybe Aaron Donald. Aaron's in every conversation. But it doesn't happen that often. I think confidence is a big part of it.
He does, and you need that because when this team goes through that stretch where they have to play the Packers and you play the Titans, there's a stretch of the schedule where it's going to be tough. And there may be about 2 or 3 losses in a row. I really think it could be that, especially late in the season. We're in the heat of trying to jockey for positioning, not only for the NFC East, but potentially playoff season. So if you have guys that are confident in that and say, hey, you know what? I know we're better at this. I know we're good at this. Look at the talent around this room. We can do this and move on. That helps out a lot in going, all right, guys, we suck. All right, we're done. It's over. Let's sit back and you know what? I got plans for Mexico after the season's over because we're done. So stuff like that. Yeah, you'd rather those confident guys.
Nobody wants to see him go there to Mexico after the season unless it's way after the season, like sometime in February. Looked up the over-under numbers for the Eagles this year, Chris Franklin. Over-under 10.5 wins for the Eagles this year. Plus minus 125. So you'd have to put up 125 to win 100 if you believe the Eagles are going to win 10 games or more. Plus a 10.5 over under if you think they're winning 11 games, plus 170. So you only have to put up 100 to win 170. So that's the cutting line between 10 and 11. If you were making a play, which one do you feel confident enough to get to 11 to get the extra juice to get it up to 170, or are you drawing a line at 10 wins for the Eagles this year?
11 was my number for this season, so I'm feeling confident laying that down. I really thought it was because when I look at I think the losses are going to be the Packers. I look at the Titans. I look at one of the Cowboys' losses. I look at the Cardinals as a loss. And I think that last Giants game when they had nothing to play for, I think that's a loss too. Otherwise, when you look at all the other stuff that they have now, I think everything else is in play. So I look at that and I think I'd comfortably take the 11 wins. And I'm shocked. I saw that line, and I remember the first open was 9.5, and I think a lot of people in Vegas and maybe you got heavily influenced in Philadelphia bumped it up to that 10.5. So I definitely take the Eagles in that.
One of the things is expectations. That's been one of my themes, Chris. And it seems like this dead period has been all optimism for the Eagles. Everybody's coming out with lists, and they have the top 10 roster, and their offensive line is the best in football. Their defensive line is top 10. They have great duo of corners. Their receivers, they haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver, it seems like, in forever, yet they have a top 5 receiving group, according to Pro Football Focus. We know about the tight end. A lot of talent on this team. If it goes in a negative direction, how much heat comes on this coaching staff? It's very rare you have the continuity, the exact same coaching staff together for a second straight season. How much heat comes down on that coaching staff as a whole?
Well, it's going to be a lot, especially through the first. I'd probably say the first 6 games. If this team comes out and looks flat, if it looks like the offense is stagnant, if it looks like there's the pass rush is not getting what it should be, given that what you have now on that front line with the addition of Hassan Reddick, I know it's going to take like maybe a game or two. Like I'll even give him a game to get in really in the flow for a newer guys to get into that system and get acclimated and get a good true feel sense with game speed. But if this 6 games in and you look at this team and they're 500 or below, I'd say even 500, like they're 33 or below 500, then I think you'll start to see a lot of the people will start questioning Sirianni. People will start questioning the change for the play calling. People will start looking at Gannon, and we're going to start hearing that why he's a defense coordinator, why not. I think you see a lot of that starting to happen, but especially with the schedule, if they don't start the season probably like 4-2, given who they have to play, then it might be some rough times. It won't be fun in Philadelphia. Sure.
Along those lines, and I think we've addressed this with you before. You come on often enough while you're on vacation, so I think we already went there. But doubling back, Shane Steichen. I didn't know he was calling the play second half of the season. They kept that pretty well under wraps, and it comes out just recently that was the case. And Shane's going to have the responsibility to start the year this year. Talk about pressure. Yeah, the difference between he was just like a guy calling in the plays that we all believe Sirianni was calling all the plays. He basically was a communicator. So what? Who cares? I could do that. John could do that. John's dog could do that. Anybody can call in the plays. Now we know he's the guy who's actually choosing the plays. How much more pressure on Steichen this year?
I think now, given that the additions they have now, I think it's a lot more. I wonder. I wonder how much we're going to see more of a vertical change and staying with that as opposed to more of the screen game and the run game, because that was the MO when we heard him when he was coming joining the Eagles, was that he's heavily into the run game and screen game, even when he had Justin Herbert. But that's kind of what helped Herbert develop as a quarterback. So I want to know how much he's going to actually continue to try to take the shots down the field, put those pressures on the safeties to try to open stuff up in the middle, because I really think they can really do that. And it kind of helps. So I think it's going to help Jalen Hurts, I think, as well, too. Having a former quarterback that's there that understands the game, that's been in some pressure situations. He was at UNLV. And you look at a guy like that, and he's the one that was always in Hurts' ear calling the plays and radioing the plays. And so that familiarity continues over, too. So I just want to see how aggressive he's going to be when it comes to taking those shots downfield. Because if they are, I think they're going to act like the big jabs to soften up the defenses so you can take advantage of that middle of the field with the speed that this team has.
Chris, along this coaching theme we've gone down, I think we all expect changes. You mentioned some of them offensively being more vertical. You have A.J. Brown now. You have another a full season as a starter under the belt of Jalen Hurts. More experience there. Defensively, we all know the excuses or explanations, whatever adjective you want to use, for Jonathan Gannon, the soft shell coverage. We expect changes with all the talent: Hassan Reddick, Jordan Davis, Kaiser White, Nakobe Dean, James Bradbury, on and on and on. If one is the same, what would you be more disappointed? In other words, if the Eagles show up with the same offense and the same defense, what's worse?
I think if the Eagles show up with the same defense, I think that's considerably worse, given that I think, because I'm one of the people that believe they have, when you look on paper, and this is just on paper, not what they did last year, because everybody knows that was just putrid. Second fewest sacks. That was just, with that lineup, that was just disappointing. I look at what they do
Top
now.
10 defense, though, Chris. Top 10.
Statistics are wonderful, aren't they? That's why I wasn't in math. I wish I should have been in math. but when you look at the, I think given that the guys now you have that you can disguise a bit more coverages, given the guys, I think you can get more of a pass rush guys who I think actually get to the quarterback and wrap them up and not miss tackles. And there were some times last year where they dialed up some blitzes and it looked good, but then maybe you saw Alex Singleton fall off somebody, maybe you saw the corner not get there. I think they have guys now that can actually get to the quarterback and actually wrap them up and actually rack up sacks. Are they going to be the league leaders? I don't think so. I think they could be a lot better. I think definitely more than 29 sacks better, but I think we look at especially the secondary. With adding Bradbury, having that cornerback trio with Maddox and Slay as well too. Unless Marcus Epps or whoever's back there, Tart or whoever, whatever combination of safeties are back there, unless they completely bomb or something like that, I think this defense can be better. And if Gannon continues to play it safe and not want to take risks and or guys aren't playing up to that level, I think that's for the defense. If they come back playing the same type of style, I think that's going to be more disappointing.
All right, Chris, you pointed out the Eagles play 4 games before the bye week. You got Detroit, Minnesota, Washington, Jacksonville, Arizona, and then the biggest game of the year to that point, and what may turn out to be the biggest game of the year overall, the Cowboys here on Sunday, October 16th. We think the Eagles should be above 500 at that point. If they're at 500, that's not great. If they're below 500, you're screwed. Chances are, if you lose that game against Dallas at home, yeah, Dallas is probably going to win the division. Knowing that everyone is watching the early part of the schedule and evaluating the Eagles off the competition that they're playing or not playing, how do the Eagles balance putting in all the proper prep time, putting the proper emphasis on how important the quick start is, and the overall edict of, yeah, but we don't want to get hurt. We don't want to push the envelope. We don't really want to put in too much work because our stats show us, our analytics prove that if we do less, we get more from our non-injured players. How does Sirianni manage that contradiction?
I think it's the biggest benefit of them for them is that they have the system coming back. They know what they're running already. So they got a second year into it. You don't have to do so much teaching and start to go, this is how I want our routes run. This is how I want our blitzes look. This is where I want you to line up. I don't think you have to do that as much besides with the rookies and some of the developmental players. So that gives them time to do that. And this is naturally the only game I think, well, 2 games I worry about Detroit, and not because it's just this, hey, it's Detroit Lions. You're like, it's the Lions. You shouldn't do that. Only because it's the first game you don't know what the team's going to do, and they had a whole entire offseason to prep for that. The other one is like Cowboys too. So because it's going to be amped up. This team has lost 3 straight to them, and you want to basically in that schneid and say, hey, you know what, we're going to play a little bit better this year. And we're going to come for that division. So I think for looking at everything, I think it's going to like a 4-2 start. I think they win that. The thing that's going to happen is I think they win those first 4. And then everybody's going, hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. The Eagles are here. They're for real. And then they win next year. Oh, this team stinks. We knew this wasn't what they play. They can't play a competition. It's going to be, I guess right now it happens like, here we go again. This sounds very familiar, but I think it's going to be one of those things. But I think it's going to become, I just think it's going to come naturally. These guys are going to come out. I think they'll have the task at hand. I think they're going to get used to the stuff, but I think they're already used to the system. And it's a matter of execution. I think they'll do that against those first 4 teams.
4-0 would look nice. At C. Franklin News joining us from his staycation, so we very much appreciate that. Enjoyed the shore this weekend, Chris. I will leave you with this. Both Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon both say we're talking about statistics, and you can mold statistics any way you want. But they've been pretty consistent. The 2 ways you win in this league are turnovers and explosive plays. From the offensive perspective, you want explosive plays. You don't want turnovers. From the defensive perspective, you got to limit both. You got to limit explosive plays. You got to get turnovers. They both say that constantly. Those are the 2 numbers they look at. Those are the 2 numbers that relate to wins and losses. Are they simplifying things too much, do you think? Or is that the way you win in the modern NFL?
I think you still win. I think especially you have to win on the offensive and defensive line. You have to win the trenches to give yourself enough time to allow yourself to get those explosive plays on both sides. Because if you get the pass rush, you get the explosive plays of pass against defensively to limit those. You got to get a good pass rush from your front 4 or 5, whatever you send that way. And then when it comes to offensively, you have to have your offensive line giving you time to go down deep when they want to. So I think overall, I think you have to do that because you have to put a lot of pressure on there. And I think with the Eagles, especially offensively, I think they can get a lot of explosive plays on offense, given that you have these 3 wide receivers now, including Quez Watkins and Dallas Goedert. So you're constantly going at teams. You keep constantly stretching the field, constantly going at. How many teams can you really truly name that have 3 or 4 legit defensive backs, especially corners as well too, especially a good nickel back that can actually keep up with 3 different ones. If you put Quez Watkins in the slot, I'll take that chance of him going deep against a safety versus say another guy. Now, if you have Quez your number two, and that. But I think especially when you look at the explosive plays overall for both sides, I think that I'd say that's a fair statement to say that that's how you have to win. You have to take a lot of chances, and you can't play it safe and think and dunk your way down the field with 17 play drives for like 9 minutes because you're limiting your chances to have success. I mean, possessions you have, so you need that.
Who's going to get more snaps this year, Quez Watkins or Zach Pascal?
Ooh, that's tough. They like to play a lot of 11 personnel, or one running back and one tight end. So I'd probably say. So you know what? I'm gonna go. I want to hedge my bet, and the only reason I don't say this, I think it's going to be Pascal, because I think especially when this team's going to be up in a lot of those games, and when you have Pascal, when you run that 4-minute drill, you have Pascal and his blocking ability. I think he edges him out slightly. I think you'll see Quez in a lot more when it comes to those passing situations, or if the game's close. I think that's when you see Quez in there for his big playability. But when the
That is
team's
a
up and they're
good
trying to run a
point,
thing,
Chris
let's go with
Franklin.
that.
That is an excellent point. The Eagles should hope for more Zach Pascal. That Eagles fans, that might be counterintuitive for them.
Right.
But you're right. If they're in the 4-minute drill late in games, it's going to be Zach Pascal in there for blocking when they run the football.
Purposes, absolutely right.
That is an excellent point. A gold star for me, Chris Franklin.
Yay!
Even though he's on vacay and relaxing and not supposed to be worried about football, he's good enough to hop on with us and come up with gems of intelligence on the Eagles. Mr. Franklin, enjoy the rest of your vacation. We'll be getting you back on the show before you know it. Thanks, bud.
Hey, I appreciate it. You guys have a good one now. I hope you guys enjoy your time too.